We are at the beginning of a brand new year. It's 2025. What is the emotion that first comes to mind when you think about the year ahead of us? I want to try and see if in today's episode I can give you a few tips about how to get better at keeping your resolutions. And what is it exactly that is holding you back from reaching your goals, your dreams, your bucket list items, your BHAGs in 2025?
You're listening to Intentionality with Paul Kempff.
Discover the joy of an intentional life through the intentional accretion of healthy habits. Have you ever thought about what it really takes to be successful? Have you ever really sat down and wrote the formula for success or the recipe for success in your life? Maybe I'm just weird. But a couple of years ago, I decided to try and define the formula of success, to write down the ingredients of success. Now, I've alluded to this recipe or formula a couple of times in previous episodes. The good news is today I'm going to share with you that formula for success. We are at the beginning of a brand new year. It's 2025. And this is episode 50 of Intentionality with Paul Kempff. Another milestone, a wonderful milestone. I actually cannot believe we've reached 50 episodes. And here's the interesting thing. We're actually standing at 125 videos already released on YouTube at the time of recording this episode. I think it's the perfect time to do some reflection at the beginning of a new year, to talk about the changes we have made in IWPK over the last year and a half, to talk about the progress we've made on IWPK, and to think about what the future holds for this podcast. Now, if we talk about the changes, we've changed the studio 3 times, we've changed the look and feel of the podcast a couple of times. We initially started off simply with solo episodes. Then we started doing some interviews. Currently, we're doing more interviews than solo episodes. A few months ago, we started doing some shorts and some reels that we are releasing on YouTube and on TikTok, on a lot of the social media platforms. And I am so happy and so grateful to announce that we've passed the 1,500 subscriber mark on YouTube. We have had one of our most successful YouTube interviews done with Mark Sham, already surpassing 13,000 views on YouTube. And on a lot of the other social media platforms, the content that we are creating is being watched by more and more people. And at the beginning of a new year, it is really exciting to think about what the future holds for IWPK. Something that is very important for me is finding the motivation to continue with this podcast. It is a huge amount of work, not just for myself in creating content and finding people to interview, but also for the production team behind the scenes. And what's absolutely crucial for us, what keeps us going, is the engagement, the feedback that we get from you, the supporters, the audience of this channel. And I really want to encourage you to reach out, to talk to us, whether it's on email, whether it's on social media, whether it's simply a comment on a post. I love hearing from you. And every time you send an email that just talks about one little thing that you've enjoyed on Intentionality with Paul Kempff, or something that has inspired you, that keeps us going for many more episodes. Now, at the beginning of a new year, I often think about emotions. And I want to ask you today, I want to ask you to really think about what emotions you are feeling at the beginning of a new year. What is the emotion that first comes to mind when you think about the year ahead of us? Is it a negative emotion? Is it things like anxiety, concern, sadness, anger, pessimism, overwhelm? Are those the kind of things that you are thinking about now? Or are your emotions positive? Things like happiness, joy, bliss, optimism, gratitude, pride, excitement. And when you've identified which of those emotions is the one that's foremost in your thoughts at the moment, I want you to think about why. Why are you feeling those emotions at this time of the year? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the month of January is named after the Roman god Janus. And Janus was the god of beginnings and endings. Appropriate. It's the beginning of a new year, but it's also the ending of the previous year. It's the ending of certain things in your life that you want to get rid of, and it's the beginning of certain things in your life, habits, things that you want to do this year. So quite an appropriate name for the month of January. It really is an opportunity to change things up again, to do things differently from the way you did it last year. Now, one of the things that we often do in January is we often think about things like New Year's resolutions. We sit down and we set certain goals, certain targets for ourselves for the new year. And this is something that can be incredibly empowering. But I do think that in a lot of cases, it is something that just does not work for you. And the question really is, why doesn't it work for you? Why is it so difficult to stick with New Year's resolutions? Why do we set these goals in January? Losing weight, quitting smoking, going to the gym. Why do we set ourselves up for these things in January, and by February, we feel like a failure because we were not able to stick to those resolutions. We didn't achieve our goals. I want to try and see if in today's episode, I can give you a few tips about how to get better at keeping your resolutions, how to set yourself up better for reaching your goals. And what do I think is the number one way of doing it? Well, obviously, it's by being more intentional around your goals. Now, here's the first tip I want to give you: accountability. And more specifically, accountability partners. For me, an accountability partner works like magic. I just know, in my relationship, at home, with my wife, if I decide to do a diet to lose some weight, and she simply eats what she wants, it's almost impossible to stick with that diet, and vice versa. If it's something that you do together, it becomes far easier to stick with that goal, to stick with that resolution. Same with exercise. If you find somebody that you can go to the gym with in the mornings on a regular basis, and you guys have an appointment, you're going to meet each other at the gym at this specific time on this specific day, it's much more difficult to hit that snooze button and to lie in and miss the gym session. Accountability partners work. But here's the important thing. It's not just about finding somebody that you can do something with. More importantly, it's finding somebody that you can tell your resolutions or goals to so that they can keep you honest. Now, before we continue with this conversation around accountability partners and the value of an accountability partner, let's move on to tip number 2, and then we'll combine these. Tip number 2 in terms of sticking to resolutions or reaching goals for me is BHAGs. Now, I love BHAGs. BEAGs stands for Big Hairy Audacious Goals. The words just sound great to me. But what does it really mean? It means setting yourself a goal that is so big, so hairy, so audacious that it actually scares you a little bit. Now, here's the most important rule about a BEAG. It must be virtually impossible to reach that goal within a year. I'm going to repeat that because it's a very important element of a BEAG. It must be virtually impossible for you to reach that goal within 1 year. Why? This is an important point. Bill Gates is credited with saying this the first time. Bill Gates said, most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. So what does this have to do with BEAGs? I'll explain. If you set yourself a goal that is reasonably easy to achieve in a year, and you fail in reaching that goal, you feel like a failure. The moment you set yourself a goal that is virtually impossible to achieve within a year, you cannot feel like a failure. You already knew at the beginning of the year you're not going to achieve it. But the good news here is because you have not said you are going to reach that goal within a year, you've set yourself along a timeline. You have more time to commit to that goal, to reach that goal. And this is where it gets particularly interesting. I've been employing this concept of BHAGs in my life for a very, very long time, and I'm very intentional about them. I write these BHAGs down, and I write them down in an app called Todoist, which I use on a regular basis, so that these BHAGs are available to me as something that I can see on a regular basis. And I look at these BHAGs almost every single week. And my list of BHAGs, all of these BHAGs is something that I cannot achieve in 1 year, or virtually impossible to achieve in 1 year. I keep them on this list year after year after year. And this is where it gets really interesting. I also have something called a BHAGs achieved list. And this is where after 2 or 3 or 4 years, I look at my list of BHAGs and I all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, I've actually achieved one of the BHAGs. I can move it from a BHAG to a BHAGs achieved list. And you will be surprised by the power, the joy that you can get out of something like this. And remember, those BHAGs achieved stays on the list. I must be able to see on a regular basis how many of my big, hairy, audacious goals I have achieved in my life.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the FFG Group of Companies. Take another step into living a more intentional life by being more intentional with your finances and insurance. As a trusted provider of a wide range of financial services, the FFG Group offers innovative, tailored solutions that help companies and individuals thrive and flourish. They are an amazing company that I believe in because they embody intentionality in everything they do, and I'm proud to partner with them. FFG is an authorized financial services provider. Ready to take the next step? Click the link below and start making better, more intentional financial decisions, or visit their website. Remember, with FFG, you create the memories, we ensure the journey.
And now I'm going to put this tip of an accountability partner and a BHAG together. And I'm going to show you how. I have many BHAGs I'm still pursuing in my life. Yes, I've reached a few, but there's still a lot outstanding. And I'm going to share just one of them with you. I want to talk at a TEDx event once in my life. This is a big, big goal for me. And I'm sharing this with you today because I want you to be my accountability partners. I've put it out there in the universe. I've said this is something that I want to do. And this is something that everybody that listens to this podcast can keep me accountable on. If you see me, if you talk to me, you can ask me, Paul, what have you done to achieve this BHAG? Now, speaking at a TEDx event for me is particularly intimidating because I have sat in these TEDx events and I've been so impressed by the speakers and the comfort with which they stand on a stage and share these incredible messages with lots of people. And despite the fact that it's an incredibly intimidating goal for me, this is something that I'm going to pursue in the next 4 years. In the next few years, so that I can make sure that I put this BHAG on the BHAGs achieved list as well. I want to ask you another uncomfortable question around BHAGs now. When was the last time you've actually reached a BHAG in your life? Well, let's be honest about it. Do you actually have a BHAGs list? Is it something that is written down? And what is it exactly that is holding you back from reaching your goals, your dreams, your bucket list items, your BHAGs in 2025? I believe goals, and specifically BHAGs, is an incredibly important part of a success formula. I think it's one of my secrets to success. And speaking of success, I promised to share with you today my formula, my recipe for success. This is something that I've developed over time, and I've also changed it a lot of times. It is something that I'm hoping the production team can put on the screen, at least on the YouTube videos. We'll see how that goes in post-recording editing. Unfortunately for the podcasters, it's something that you will now have to imagine, because I'm going to share with you that formula for success that I have developed. It looks like this. S equals M plus HW plus Q plus E plus T plus L. Make sense? No, it doesn't. I'll quickly explain. The S stands for success. Success is achieved by taking first the M, motivation, having high levels of motivation, adding to that HW. HW stands for hard work. Adding to that qualifications, the necessary qualifications to reach a specific goal or a specific level of employment or level of promotion in your life. Plus E is experience. You cannot simply just achieve success, or it's very rare to achieve success without having the necessary experience. T stands for time. You need to be patient. You need to allow time to help you in achieving your goals and becoming successful. And L is luck. So there you have it. Success equals motivation plus hard work plus qualifications plus experience plus time plus luck. Simple as that. Now, I'd like to just quickly highlight two of these success ingredients that I just want to say something about. The first one is hard work. I watched a YouTube video in the last week. It was incredible. It was about a guy who wanted to run the New York Marathon in under 3 hours. And he made an entire video about his preparation and about the entire race and how he eventually did. It's well worth a watch, but here's the thing that stood out for me in that video. The theme of the video was the following. In order to do great things, we need to do hard things. And I think that really sums up for me this whole principle of hard work and the value of hard work in achieving success. I really do not believe there are any shortcuts. There are any quick fire ways to be successful. It requires time and it requires hard work. Now, what about luck? I think you might be surprised in me including luck in the secret formula to success, but I do want to explain it. You need to think about the definition of luck. The definition of luck for me is preparation meeting opportunity. And when you think about it that way, I think it makes a lot more sense about why it should be part of a secret success formula. Because ultimately, it's about making sure that everything you do in your life intentionally prepares you to be ready the day that a good opportunity comes your way. Because imagine how sad it's going to be if that opportunity comes across your path somewhere in your life and you're not prepared to be able to take that opportunity. Because often these kind of opportunities is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, this formula of mine was developed many, many years ago. And subsequent to that, I've actually adjusted the formula. I've evolved this formula and I've added a few elements to it. I've said that this is not enough anymore. You need a few other elements like CI, PH, RM, and TW. Okay, again, I know I have to explain. CI for me is continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is something that I'm going to talk about in a moment. It's an incredibly crucial part of a secret success formula. PH, positive habits. We're definitely going to talk more about that. RM is for the right mindset. I don't think I have to expand on that. It's something I've spoken about in almost 50 episodes on IWPK. And then very important, TW. Because TW stands for teamwork. It's because I've realized in my life that it is incredibly difficult to be successful on your own. It is far easier to be successful, to stay motivated, to stay the course when you are part of a motivated team. So there you go. My success formula is S equals M plus CHI, PH, RM, TW, HW, QE, T, and L. A simple formula for success. No, I'm kidding. It's not simple. It's very complicated. And that's why I've had to evolve this formula again. And I've really decided to stick with an incredibly simplified formula for success, for happiness, for well-being. Here's my new formula. 3 elements only: intentionality, accretion, and healthy habits. And that's how I came up with this quote. And this is not one that I got from anybody else. This is one that I've come up with. And it's the quote I shared with you right at the beginning of this episode. I want you to discover the joy of an intentional life through the intentional accretion of healthy habits. So let's quickly talk about the trajectory of your life at the moment. Are you satisfied with where you find yourself at the beginning of 2025? I want to give you the tip of the week today in the middle of this episode. I think it's the right time to give it right now. And it's another great book. It's another great read. It's something that I really would encourage you to go and read. It's a book called The Slight Edge, written by Jeff Olson. And in this book, Jeff talks about turning simple disciplines into massive happiness and success. And he says in this book, the secret to achieving success and becoming happy is repeating the small daily habits and actions over and over and over again. And then the compound effect will carry you ultimately to success and happiness. So this is a new description of something that I've spoken about in a previous episode. And it is one of the ingredients of the success formula. I initially called it continuous improvement, but now I refer to it as accretion. Accretion is the process of building something up over time, little by little by little. But here's the important thing about accretion that you need to understand. Accretion is something that can work both ways. It's something that can build up over time. So think of the Great Barrier Reef. It's a living organism in the sea that is built up over millions of years, few millimeters at a time. But at the same time, you can think about this concept as a negative when you think about something like erosion. So small little habits, small little things that you do every single day can either add to your life or subtract from your life. It can either build up or it can break down or even hold you back. Success or failure, it goes both ways. In this book, Jeff talks about mastering the mundane as one of the secrets to a successful life. And the slight edge he talks about is this mastering the mundane. And he talks about it by going to the gym as an example for exercise. Now think about it this way. If you go to the gym and after one day you go and stand in front of the mirror and you check, what was the progress I have made because I went to the gym today? There's no question about it. You are going to be disappointed because going to the gym, unfortunately, the results cannot be measured visibly on a daily basis. Little actions can sometimes seem insignificant and even boring. And that is why these daily little habits and actions are so hard and why consistency is so hard. It's why most people give up very early on in the journey. The shortcut, the magic pull, the big break, the jackpot mentality, unfortunately, does not work 99% of the time in almost every single pursuit that is worthwhile in our lives. What does work is simply starting, being consistent, not giving up, even when you do not see the results immediately. And in this book, Jeff shares 7 positive, powerful habits that I think could change your life in 2025. Let me share them with you very quickly. I've already said 1 or 2 of them. The first one is simply show up. Decide that you want to change something. Decide that you want to show up and start. The second one is consistency. Show consistency in everything you do. And it doesn't matter here whether you feel sick or tired. This is about doing something every single day. The third one, cultivate a positive outlook. Rewire your brain to start looking for opportunities instead of fearing threats. Number 4, commit to the long haul. Jeff talks about the 10,000 hours rule. I'm sure you've heard this rule before. The 10,000 hour rule says it takes 10,000 hours of practice to master something, to become an expert in any given field. Malcolm Gladwell spoke about it in his book, Outliers, The Story of Success. And I just want us to briefly unpack this 10,000 hours rule before we move on to the next powerful habit. I need you to think about this 10,000 hours rule. Now, whether it's correct, whether you believe it, whether you think it's 8,000 or 12,000 hours, doesn't really matter. But I just want you to, for a moment, get an idea of what 10,000 hours actually mean. Do you know, if you spend 1 hour a day on something, now remember, this is something you want to master. This is something you want to become an expert on. So you spend 1 hour a day on it. You never miss a day. You do this for 364 days in a year. How long will it take you before you become that expert? How long will it take you before you have 10,000 hours? Have you ever thought about that? The answer is roughly about 27 years. If you spend 2 hours every single day, 364 days a year, it'll take you 13 and a half years. And 3 hours a day, it's about 9 years. So it becomes quite a lot if you think about 10,000 hours that way. Okay, so that was, I think, 1, 2, 3. That was the fourth one. Commit to the long haul. Spend 10,000 hours on something if you want to become an expert on it. The fifth one was cultivate a burning desire backed by a faith that you will make it. Now, if it's not a faith in a higher power, have at least that unwavering belief in yourself. Number 6 is pay the price. What is it you will sacrifice so that you can get what you want, so that you can achieve anything in your life? And then number 7 is practice integrity. Do the right thing even when nobody's watching, because you will be rewarded in public for what you do in private. Now, I like to believe that I have successfully implemented most of these 7 habits in my life over the last 20 years. I can attest to the fact that they really, really work, and they really make a difference. And I would like to add just one last one that fits in perfectly with the ideas that Jeff discusses in this book, The Slight Edge. I would not call it an 8th powerful habit. I want to rather look at it as maybe something that you can use to think differently about these 7 habits, a way of more intentionally making these 7 habits a part of your life. Now, in episode 49, I spoke about finding a puzzle piece every single day. In the same way, I want you to start finding a puzzle piece every day in your life. I want you to also start focusing on the concept of 1% better every day. If you look at your life right now and you do not like where you are, think again about that quote that I shared with you in episode 49. The moment you realize the person you could have been, but then notice the person you are, will be the greatest pain you will ever experience in your life. Where you are in your life right now is the consequence of decisions and choices you have made in your life in the last week, the last month, and the last year, maybe even the last decade. Nothing you can do about it. It's the past. But what about the decisions you're going to make tomorrow, next week, next year, the next decade of your life? If you wake up one day when you are 80 years old and you do not like the life you have, it's your fault. If you wake up one day and you're 80 and you love the life you have, it's also your fault. Remember, you are the CEO of your life, and this could be incredibly empowering, but unfortunately also a painful smack in the face of a lot of people. What is the story about your life that you tell yourself every single day? Is it one of negative self-talk? If you do it enough, you must remember it becomes your identity, and this identity will eventually determine your habits and outcomes. By becoming 1% better every day, you are changing this story, and it could be as simple as making your mindsets around your life story, your identity, 1% better every day. Remember, every action is a vote for the person you want to become. Here's another interesting idea about 1% better. If I was to take a pen and paper and spend every minute of your life with you, just one day of your life, and I write down everything you do, all your little habits and actions, what habits would you not want me to know about? What actions will you think, I know I would not want Paul to see this or know this about me? Those are the habits and actions that you need to work on, that needs to go, that you need to start eliminating from your life, and that you need to start doing 1% better every day. Start becoming 1% better in as many aspects of your life as you can. And I'm almost certain 2025 will be a better year than 2024. I read something very profound recently. When life happens, you can either be the author of your life or the victim of it. And what's the main difference between being the author or the victim of your life? It's about being accountable. This means taking responsibility yourself, not blaming others, not getting stuck on excuses, avoiding reality. Remember, if it is to be, it is up to me. Discover the joy of an intentional life through the intentional accretion of healthy habits. Start today. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching Intentionality with Paul Kempff. Subscribe, like, and click that bell to get notified when we release more episodes on how to live a life of intention and purpose.